After I co-signed a loan for my cousin, he vanished. I got hit with a lawsuit from the bank, and when I tracked him down, he said, "Only idiots sign paperwork for family." I was humiliated until I found the voicemail where he promised to cover every penny, and when I sent it to the collections lawyer, I still feel stupid even writing this. I think that's what hits me the most. Not the money, not even the betrayal. It's how I let myself get used. How I told myself it was safe. That family doesn't screw you over. Yeah, they do. This happened over a few years, but it's still playing out in a way. I haven't told many people the full story because, honestly, it's embarrassing. But I've been carrying it around, and maybe writing it out will help. My cousin Aaron is 4 years older than me. He was always the loud one at family parties, the kind of guy who people either found charming or exhausting. When I was younger, I thought he was cool, older, confident, always had stories. When I was 14, he taught me how to drive his old Civic in an empty school parking lot. When I was 19 and my dad had a stroke, Aaron was one of the few people in the family who came to visit more than once. That stuck with me. So years later, when I was 25 and working 2 jobs just to keep things steady, and Aaron called me out of the blue, I picked up. He told me he needed help. Said he was starting his own landscaping company and needed a loan for a work truck and equipment, but his credit wasn't strong enough on its own. He asked me to co-sign a $15,000 loan. I didn't say yes right away. I actually told him I needed time to think. He hit me with the full guilt trip about how this was his last shot, how banks don't give guys like him second chances, how I was the only person he trusted. Then he added, "Bro, even if something happens, I'll cover every cent. I swear, you won't ever have to worry. I got you." I remember the exact tone of his voice. I still hear it sometimes. I said yes. The loan was approved fast. The bank had both of us sign papers. The woman at the desk said something about how, if he didn't pay, I'd be on the hook. I looked at Aaron. He smiled and said, "Won't happen." For the first 3 or 4 months, payments went through. I didn't even think about it. Then I stopped hearing from him. Texts left on read. Calls ignored. I figured maybe he was just busy. But then a letter came from the bank saying the last payment had bounced. Then another. Then I got served. The bank was suing me. I was confused, then panicked. I called every number I had for him. Nothing. I messaged his ex-girlfriend. She said he moved out and didn't leave a forwarding address. I called his mom, my aunt. She said he was figuring stuff out and hung up on me when I pushed harder. I checked his socials. Gone. Deleted. I tried to explain to the bank that I didn't use the money, didn't own the truck, that I was just a co-signer. They didn't care. To them, I was responsible. I started getting calls from debt collectors. One even called my job. The anxiety got so bad I couldn't sleep. I stopped going out. I started selling stuff just to make partial payments to stop the bleeding. I had no lawyer, no help, just this growing mountain of debt. That wasn't mine. And the worst part? I felt ashamed, like I was too naive to see it coming. It got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. I had a thought, if he's still doing landscaping, maybe he's advertising somewhere. I searched Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, even old posts from months ago. Then I got an idea. I made a fake Craigslist post pretending to be someone looking for landscaping work. I gave a fake name and listed a random address in a nearby town. A few days later, someone replied. It was Aaron, using a different phone number. We set up a time. I waited at the address in my car across the street, and he pulled up. Same truck. My name was still on the loan for it. He didn't recognize me at first. I walked up slowly. When he saw who I was, his face didn't change much, just a little smirk. I asked him, "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you disappear?" He shrugged, legit shrugged. Then he said, "Only idiots sign paperwork for family." That's all. No apology. No explanation. Just that. I stood there for a minute. I didn't say anything. I walked back to my car and drove home, hands shaking the whole way. That night, I went looking through old messages. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe just proof I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined the whole thing. And that's when I found it. A voicemail. From the week we signed the loan. He said, "Hey man, just wanted to say thanks again. I swear if anything happens, I got you. You won't have to pay a dime. I'll cover every penny, even if I have to sell the truck." I played it 3 times, sat in silence after. I didn't know what I had yet. I didn't know if it would matter. But something in me shifted. After I found the voicemail, I sat on it for about a week. I didn't know what to do with it. I kept thinking maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it wasn't enough to mean anything. But I also couldn't stop hearing his voice say, "I'll cover every penny." That line played in my head like a broken record. At this point, I'd already spent months dodging collection calls, stressing over court dates, losing sleep, and paying off a loan that wasn't even mine. My credit score was wrecked. My savings? Gone. I finally decided to talk to a lawyer. Not a fancy one, I couldn't afford that. Just some small-time guy I found online who did free consultations. His office was above a laundromat, and the ceiling had water stains. I didn't care. I just needed someone who knew what the hell to do. I played him the voicemail. He asked me to send it to him along with the loan documents. 2 days later, he called me and said this could change things. Apparently, because Aaron made a clear promise to take full responsibility after the loan was signed, and because I had proof in his own voice, it could potentially shift liability, especially if we framed it as fraud. But it would depend on the judge, the timeline, and how it was argued. The lawyer said he could try to get the collections lawsuit paused while we submitted this as new evidence. It wasn't guaranteed, but it was something. We sent a formal letter to the bank's collections attorney. Attached the voicemail. Included a short affidavit for me explaining how I was misled and left with the debt. That's when things got weird. A week after that letter was sent, I got a message from Aaron's brother, Jason. We hadn't spoken in over a year. He just texted, "You really went to a lawyer over this?" No hello. No context. Just that. I didn't answer. But a few hours later, I got a Facebook message from some girl I didn't know. She said she was Aaron's new girlfriend. Her message was short too. "Whatever this is, you're not going to win. Aaron said you're trying to ruin his life." I didn't respond to that either. But inside, I started to panic again. Because suddenly, it wasn't just about money anymore. It was turning into drama. A few days later, I got home from work and found a business card wedged in my front door. No envelope, just a card. It was from a private investigator. I called the number. The guy picked up. I asked why he was at my apartment. He said he was trying to verify my residence for a civil matter. That's all he'd say. But it didn't take a genius to figure out who sent him. Aaron was trying to flip the script. I called my lawyer right after. He wasn't surprised. He said if Aaron thought the voicemail could hurt him, he'd try to get ahead of it, maybe claim it was edited or taken out of context or that I was harassing him. So, my lawyer filed a cease and desist. Then we filed a formal complaint for fraud and misrepresentation. It was enough to pause the collections case temporarily. But that's not the worst part. One night, around 11:30 p.m., I was walking back from the corner store and saw a truck parked near my building. I recognized it. Same truck from before, same dented side panel. I stood frozen for a second. Then the lights came on. The engine started. It drove off. I never saw the driver's face, but I know who it was. He wanted me to see him. He wanted me to know he wasn't going to back off. That night, I barely slept. Kept checking the lock. Kept the kitchen light on. I felt like my own cousin was stalking me just because I didn't roll over and let him screw me quietly. The next morning, I called my lawyer again. He told me if it kept happening, we could file for a restraining order. But I'd need proof. So I installed a camera. Outside my door. Facing the street. A week later, it caught something. Not him, but his girlfriend. She walked up to my door and left a note. I didn't touch it. Just took pictures and called my lawyer. The note said, "Drop it. Family doesn't do this to each other. You're acting like a snake." No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. My lawyer said we'd add it to the file. So now, it wasn't just about the debt. It wasn't just about the voicemail. Now, it was turning into something darker. After the note, I didn't leave my apartment without checking the hallway twice. I stopped sleeping with both earbuds in. I started locking the deadbolt even when I was home. I wasn't scared for my life exactly, but there was this constant pressure in my chest, like I was always waiting for something else to drop. It didn't take long. About 10 days after the note, I checked my credit report just out of habit. I'd been doing that a lot, trying to track the damage from the collections mess. But this time, something new popped up. A hard inquiry from a lender I didn't recognize. Then, 2 days later, a new credit card account showed up. In my name. $5,000 limit. Already maxed out. I felt like the air left the room. I called the bank, and the woman on the phone confirmed the card had been opened online using my name, address, and social security number. I told her it wasn't me. She paused and said, "Do you know someone named Aaron, last name?" My heart dropped. She couldn't say much more without a subpoena, but she told me the application had come from an IP address tied to an account with his name. I filed a police report that same day. The officer took notes, asked a few questions, and gave me a case number. He didn't seem surprised. Said this kind of thing happens a lot between relatives. That phrase stuck with me. Between relatives. Like it was just normal. I told my lawyer. He was furious. Said we'd now file for criminal fraud on top of everything else. Meanwhile, the original collections case against me was still technically paused, but not gone. We were waiting for a court date on our counterclaim. Aaron hadn't responded formally through his lawyer yet, but we knew they saw what we filed because suddenly the messages stopped. The stalking stopped. The truck didn't show up again. It went quiet. Too quiet. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from my HR department at work. They said they'd received an anonymous email saying I was under criminal investigation for fraud and that I should not be trusted handling sensitive financial data. I work in logistics. Nothing I do involves money. But someone had gone out of their way to try to screw with my job. My boss was cool about it. He knew something was up. I explained a little, said it was a family dispute, and someone was trying to retaliate. He told me to take care of whatever I needed and let him know if I needed time off. Still, I went home that night shaking because I realized then Aaron wasn't just trying to dodge the loan. He was trying to ruin me. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. It was about humiliation. It was about making me regret ever standing up to him. So I decided to dig. If he was willing to mess with my credit, stalk my apartment, and try to get me fired, what else was he hiding? I started contacting people he used to work with, old clients of his landscaping business. A few remembered him. One guy said he paid Aaron for a huge patio job that was never finished. Another said Aaron ran off with a deposit and stopped replying to calls. I asked if they'd ever filed complaints. Some had. A couple said they'd tried but didn't want the headache. But they were willing to give statements. I brought that to my lawyer. He started building a larger case, not just about the loan, but a pattern of behavior, a history of deception and financial abuse. Then came the real twist. A woman messaged me out of nowhere. Her name was Claire. She said she found my name while Googling Aaron's business, trying to see if he was still operating. She said she used to date him. Her message started with, "You don't know me, but I think he did the same thing to you that he did to me." We exchanged a few emails. Then we talked on the phone. She told me that 5 years ago, Aaron convinced her to co-sign a lease on a commercial property he wanted to turn into a landscape supply store. He promised to make all the payments. She said he sweet-talked her into it, said all the same things he said to me. When he stopped paying the lease, the landlord came after her. She lost almost $8,000 trying to settle it. She said when she confronted him, he told her, "It's just business. Don't take it personal." Exact words. Same tone. Same pattern. I asked her if she'd be willing to give a statement. She didn't even hesitate. And then she said one last thing before we hung up. "If you're still dealing with him, be careful. He knows how to make people look crazy. He's done it before." That stuck with me. Because, honestly, she was right. He made me look unstable to my own family. He made me feel paranoid in my own home. He tried to drag my name through the mud at work, all while acting like I was the one being dramatic. And now, I had proof it wasn't just me. I thought I was prepared for whatever was next. After the fake credit card, the stalking, the attempt to sabotage my job, and the messages from his girlfriend, I thought I'd seen the worst of it. I hadn't. 2 weeks after talking to Claire, his ex, my lawyer filed to formally amend our court documents. We were building a real case now: fraud, identity theft, harassment, and possibly even witness intimidation. The judge approved a hearing to review our evidence and reconsider the entire structure of the collections case. Then, out of nowhere, Aaron filed a restraining order against me. I was served at work. The document was full of lies. He said I'd been harassing him, threatening his safety, and showing up at his home and job uninvited. He claimed I was unstable and trying to destroy his business out of jealousy. He included screenshots of text messages that I never sent. They were edited or just completely fabricated. But it didn't matter. The court still had to take it seriously. Now, I wasn't just defending myself financially. I was defending my character, my freedom. I called my lawyer in full panic. He said it was classic deflection. Aaron was trying to flip the narrative so that if we ever got to court, he could say, "Look, he's obsessed with me. He's attacking me." We filed a motion to dismiss the restraining order and submitted the camera footage from my door, the note from his girlfriend, and most importantly, the voicemail. The same one where he promised to cover every penny. But here's where it started to turn. That same week, we got word from the original collections lawyer representing the bank. They sent over a quiet inquiry. Would your client be open to a private settlement discussion? That was a red flag, not a bad one. It meant something had changed. We waited a few days, then got the full picture. Aaron had been caught committing identity fraud again. Apparently, around the same time he opened that fake credit card under my name, he also tried to take out a small business loan under his ex-girlfriend Claire's name. She got a credit alert and filed a police report. And thanks to the documentation we had already submitted, they were able to link the same IP, address, and device used in both applications to him. He was now under active criminal investigation in 2 counties. The bank didn't want to be associated with the mess. They dropped the lawsuit against me. Just like that. I didn't owe the $15,000 anymore, but it wasn't over. Aaron didn't show up to the hearing for the restraining order he filed against me. It was dismissed. The judge even warned that false claims can lead to legal consequences. Then the final twist for now. I was home on a Sunday, finally starting to feel like I could breathe again, when I got a call from an unknown number. It was his mom, my aunt. I hadn't heard from her in over a year. Not since she hung up on me after I asked where Aaron was. She didn't apologize. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just said flatly, "He's in jail. You happy now?" I didn't say anything. I just waited. She said he was arrested for fraud. They took his phone, his laptop, even his truck. She said the cops had a whole file on him, and they mentioned my name, Claire's name, and 2 other people she didn't recognize. Then she said, "Family doesn't take family to court. That's not how we solve things." And I finally said what I'd been holding back for years. Then maybe he shouldn't treat family like we're disposable. She hung up. I haven't heard from her since. But even now, it's not over. Because Aaron's got lawyers, and he's still trying to cut deals. He's trying to spin the story like he was desperate and pressured and just made mistakes. He's not sorry. He's just mad he got caught. Aaron stayed in county lockup for 2 weeks before posting bail. His lawyer tried to spin the story to the judge that he was under financial stress, that everything he did was out of panic, and that this was a family dispute blown out of proportion. Same old song. Always someone else's fault. Always someone else paying the price. I was asked to testify at the hearing, not just about the loan, but about the credit fraud, the threats, the harassment. My lawyer laid it all out with receipts, voicemails, bank records, IP logs, the note on my door, even the fake restraining order. When I took the stand, I kept it simple. I told the truth, that I trusted him because he was family, that I co-signed to help, not to profit, that I begged him to just take responsibility before it all got out of hand. and that when I asked why he left me holding the debt, he laughed and said, "Only idiots sign paperwork for family." There was silence in the courtroom, just that line hanging there. Even the judge looked uncomfortable. Then Claire testified. Then another woman. Then a former client of his who never got his patio finished. Piece by piece, Aaron's story collapsed. Turns out he'd done this 5 times. Different names, different amounts. Same pattern. He thought he was untouchable because we were too ashamed to go public. He used our silence as a shield. Until we didn't stay silent anymore. The DA filed charges for wire fraud, identity theft, and falsifying documents. His lawyer tried to negotiate a deal that would avoid prison, but the judge had seen enough. Aaron got 18 months in state prison, plus restitution to everyone he scammed. Not jail, prison. I showed up the day of sentencing. I didn't have to be there, but I wanted him to see my face when the sentence was read. He wouldn't look at me. He kept his head down like a child who got caught lying, but worse, like a man who still didn't believe consequences were for him. After the hearing, his mom, my aunt, tried to talk to me again. She said something like, "He doesn't deserve this. He just lost his way." I looked her in the eye and said, "No, he walked this way, and he used every one of us as his stepping stones." She turned red. I walked away. That was the last time I saw her. After everything, I still had to rebuild. My credit is better now, but not perfect. I'll probably never see all the money again. That part still stings. But I did something Aaron never expected. I went public. I wrote a full complaint to the state contractor licensing board. His business license was revoked. He can't legally operate again in this state. I also created a simple website, not revenge porn, not a smear campaign. Just a factual timeline of what happened with documents to back it up. So, the next time he tries to set up shop, anyone who Googles him will know exactly who he is. You want to turn me into the villain for telling the truth? Fine. I'll be the villain in your story. But at least I didn't scam my own blood, steal their identity, and laugh while they drowned. I made one mistake, trusting him. He made 100, and now he's paying for all of them.